So, as we probably both know, this world is all about who you know and who knows other people, and other people saying, I want you to talk to this person. I want you to talk to this person. I want you to connect with this person. And from a Blood Origins perspective, I don't think I've ever said no to somebody in terms of like connecting with us. I've regretted a couple. Not that I'm going to regret this one. I'm not setting up the scene for you, Ryan. And I when I talk to Manny, and Manny is short for Manish. I said his name really properly on his podcast. Gelahabi, I think is his last name. And I met him in person in Atlanta. He came to DSC. And unfortunately, when he did his podcast with me, he didn't do his mustache. He was just like this really crazy Indian guy who lives in the UK. And he says, hey, you need to talk to this guy called Ryan Darby. I said, okay, well, why do I need to talk to Ryan Darby? Yeah, he works for Basque, but he also has, really good insights and stories to mental health and hunting and whatnot. So I was like, well, just seems to be quite a pervasive topic all around the world when it comes to what hunting and outdoors is doing for people and their mental acuity or their mental health, or just getting back right some sort of fashion. But you know Manny pretty well.
Yes, yeah. So Manny comes and does some shows with us through the show season. So a bit smaller than DSC, but we do some here in the UK. And,
he works for Basque for you guys in those shows?
So he comes along as a volunteer and helps us out. And Manny has some pretty big shotguns, so he likes to bring along 4 balls and stuff like that to show and tell people.
Oh, I saw that shotgun the other day. It was like it was like 2.5 meters long or something. No, that's long. That's too long. It was 1.5 meters.
Compared to Manny, it looks bigger.
Just for everyone's edification, Manny is about, gosh, I don't want to, he's going to be so pissed at me saying this. Like 5 foot something, 5'2", 5'3".
There's probably and a half in there, and that's probably very important.
And a half, that's right, and a half. But yeah, he's got this huge 4-bore that, people obviously with these driven shoots, these pheasants come over, and I've seen videos of, the gun is, gosh, I know 1.5 meters was too much, but I don't know, it's 50, 60 inches maybe?
Yeah, you're probably talking about a 36-inch barrel, if not longer, yeah.
My gosh. Well, Ryan Darby, welcome to the Blood Origins podcast. Introduce yourself, who you are, who do you work for?
So my name's Ryan Darby. I'm a regional officer for BASC in the UK, so we're the British Association for Shooting Conservation. So we're the largest organisation in the UK that represents sport shooting in the UK.
And what does a regional officer do?
So in the UK, I cover from the Humber Estuary to the edge of London and cover most of the east of England. So I go out and visit game shoots, I visit wildfowling clubs and run regional events so that the shooting community can come together, talk about any issues that are going on in shooting and talk about the positive things that are also going on.
Are those Sarah Trumbles on the wall behind you?
That one is. No, actually, this one is a Katie Hargreaves.
Katie Hargreaves.
That is, yeah. That's a Katie Hargreaves with the British 6 steer on, and then the other one is a friend of mine does portraits, so I've got my old Labrador on the wall there.
Again, this world is so small. The Katie Hargreaves was in my booth in Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Katie, that one, yeah.
Yeah, Katie's amazing. Is that a print or did you buy the original?
I bought that. That's a print from the British Game Fair.
Yeah, no, she's really, really good. We're quite excited about Katie, and obviously she's growing and meeting new people and having great clients and whatnot. So when you go to these shoots, Ryan, it's just business development essentially from a Bass perspective and just hearing from people on the land saying, hey, we're starting to hear this, or hey, we're starting to hear that.
Yes, yeah. So I go in and we'll talk about how we can improve their shoots. So whether that's moving cover crops, putting in more feed down or something like that, winter bird feed to feed through the hunger gap, So when there's no natural food around, to try and encourage the pheasants and other species in to hold them in that area. We also look at finances, that kind of thing, stocking densities, the size of pens. So in the UK, we have to put birds into a pen. We keep them in there for a couple of weeks until they learn that wood is home, and then we release them out into their completely wild. Release them probably 4-5 months before we're actually going to shoot them. So give them.
And essentially, although those situations, all the birds are on the landscape, and do they supplement through the year, or is it just like a one-time? Everyone's in the field.
Yeah, we prefer a one-time release, so we don't top up as such. So just the once.
Wow, that's so cool. I've never done it. I've never done any hunting in the UK. One day soon, I hope.
One day, give Manny a call.
For sure. So one of the reasons we got put together is, and as I mentioned it earlier, mental health. You know, I've talked to somebody from New Zealand, so there's a brand new company, dare I say company, probably a non-profit called Mental Hunts in New Zealand. And they were started specifically because New Zealand gun laws have changed tremendously in the last 3 to 4 years. And you have people coming back from obviously military service and all the rest of it with PTSD and anxiety and whatnots. And now these guys are getting worried that mental health is being looked at as something, how do I say this? They're worried that if they step up and admit that they've got mental problems and not, psychotic problems, but hey, I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with PTSD, I'm dealing with thoughts of suicide. In New Zealand, if you check that box in your firearms application, there has been situations where the cops have come immediately to your house, shown up, raided you like a criminal, and taken everything away from you. And this guy was like, isn't that just the absolute wrong thing to be doing for somebody who's saying, hey, I'm admitting, versus I'm not going to check the box now. Now people are saying, I'm not checking the box.
Yeah, so very similar in the UK. Similar stories again, people going to their GP, so their doctor, saying that they've got these issues, they want some help with it, and that then becoming a marker that goes to the firearms department that will then come out and, in some cases seize guns from people due to the medication that they'll be taking.
So you're seeing that happen with your members?
We're seeing it in the UK in some instances, yes.
Mm. So I didn't get much from Manny. Do you have a story tied to that yourself, Ryan?
Yeah, so outside of the shooting community, I'm a part of the RNLI, which is the Royal National Lifeboat Institution in the UK. So that's a voluntary service at which I go to sea on a small boat, and we go out to anybody in any form of danger. So be it a vessel that needs towing in, if it's got engine problems, so a lot like the US Coast Guard, that kind of thing. And then also we go out to people drowning and anything like that. So we cover right along the coastline. So my story, at 15 years old, I was involved in a rescue of somebody who had drowned. I was first person on scene. He was on the beach, so the boat couldn't actually get to them. So I was there on foot and performed CPR on this person for probably close to 10 minutes before we had some paramedic sort of come and
you were already involved in this society or this organization at that age?
Yes, so my father and grandfather were both coxswains of the RNLI, so I grew up within the station as such as a small child and got involved where I could as I slowly grew up and was given more and more that I was allowed to do. And then having done first aid courses and things like that at my age at the time, I then felt that, I could definitely get involved and help where I could.
And it was it's all completely voluntary?
Completely voluntary. There's no money that exchanges anywhere.
So that individual on that beach, you saved his or her life, or couldn't?
We didn't. We had a negative outcome on that day. And it wasn't until the next day, bearing in mind I was 15 at the time, I was still at school. I went back to school and realised it was the parent of some of students that I went to school with.
And they knew it at the time, or only you knew it?
So they didn't know that I was involved at that point. So obviously they were grieving, and it was going around school that this had happened, but nobody at school knew that I was also involved in a different way.
And do we know what happened? Like what happened? Like the whole story
he was a kite surfer, so I don't know if you're familiar with kite surfing.
Yeah.
Large kite and a small board, and they used the wind to drag themselves around, and his safety device didn't deploy when he tried to put it on his chest to release the kite. The kite dragged him under, and he subsequently drowned.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I had that at the age of 15, and that affected me quite heavily at that age.
Were you a hunter then, Ryan? Was your family hunting?
Yeah. So both of my grandfathers on both sides were heavily into hunting and shooting. One of them working dogs and running a small game shoots, and the other one being a paying gun to go onto game shoots as well. So I saw it from both sides of the running and the standing on the peg and actually shooting. So had a great interest in it from that age. And then left school, became a gamekeeper, looked after quite a large estate in the UK, sort of as an underkeeper, as an apprentice. So learned the trade through that. And then moving on a few years, we then had a second incident in which a chap had jumped off a cliff. So we went to help that individual. And we also had another negative impact, I think, with that first, or with the second one, that had brought back feelings I didn't realise I had on the first. So post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which then sent me tumbling into depression and that kind of thing. This is just before COVID as well. So just before we all got locked down, I was in a bit of a spiral at that stage, went to my GP, and obviously ended up on antidepressants and stuff like that. With that, I then
really, those were the only two things, right? You obviously this incident at 15 years old. Obviously, we all have, you know, we're a different generation. That there was no talk of psychologists or talking about your feelings or any of that kind of stuff. That just wasn't stuff you did.
No. So especially, I'm sure here in the UK as well as everywhere else, there's always been that man up and get on with it, and we don't talk about feelings. We bottle them up and carry on. And I think that was slightly what had happened with that, is bottled it up and forgotten about it until.
And how long? What was the time frame between when you were the first and the second one?
We're probably talking about 6 years, something like that.
Okay.
So probably the age of 21, something like that. The second one that then hit me, and then I then went to the doctors with that one and sought help.
So was it just you at that point? Did you say, "Man, I need to do something," or your family around you was like, "Hey, Ryan"?
It was my family. It was the RNLI. So they had people that came and took me through a trim process, which is taking me, talking to me. Do I need help? What can we do to help? So saw therapists, saw doctors, saw specialists. Looking at different things. I was struggling to sleep at the time and that sort of thing. So that put me onto some quite heavy sort of medication to try and get me to sleep and get my mind to rest. And so obviously subsequently from that, it was then the firearms department were then contacting me saying, "We're aware that you're taking this medication. What's going on? Can you let me know what you need?"
How was that first call? Did that make you incredibly anxious? I could imagine any call from
When you answer the phone, they say,
saying like, "Hey, buddy,
let's talk about guns for a second and medication." And so I explained to them that my escape was to be out in the woods with a dog carrying a gun, and that was where my happy place was, where I felt like I could breathe and and exercise and yeah, be outside in the fresh air. And yeah, that's where I felt I could be. And I explained that if I didn't have my guns, then that would remove that opportunity for me to have somewhere where I felt safe. So they had several conversations with myself and with my GP, my doctor, and they both agreed that they would monitor me, but I would be allowed to remain in hold of my shotguns and my firearms.
Now, would the police service normally just come in and take everything?
In some cases, they would
It sounds as it almost sounds anomalous that they decided, hey, let's have a conversation with this guy.
Yeah, so at the time I was still working in the shooting industry, so I was still a gamekeeper, which meant that, like a mechanic using spanners every day, I was carrying a rifle and a shotgun every day. So if you took away my firearms, then you'd take away a tool in my toolkit that could affect my job role at that stage. So and then in the UK, when you work on a large estate, you tend to get a house provided to you as part of that job. So that meant if I lost my guns, I could lose my job, which means I could have lost where I was living at the time as well. So it was quite a big, impactful conversation to have with them to say, look, I need those more than you probably think I do.
Was this a over the phone kind of conversation, or did they come to the house and or meet at the GP's office? Or
first one was a phone call. Then we had a face-to-face, a coffee and a biscuit together. And then from there, it was mainly then just over the phone, but they did come out and meet me, and we did have, heart-to-heart conversations about exactly how we were going to deal with it.
I'm intrigued. Was it the same guy constantly? Like, you got assigned this one cop, this is your guy, and you developed almost like a relationship with him or her?
Yes. So we have what we call FEOs in the UK, so firearms inquiry officers, and they are dedicated within a county. They have their own number of firearms licensing holders that they're responsible for. So could be 2,000-3,000 that they're responsible for, but he was mine. So he was the one that knew my story the whole time. It wasn't this cop, that cop, or anything like that. It was always the same person that I was in contact with.
I can imagine that makes things a lot easier.
It definitely does, yeah. When they know
talking to someone and understanding your history and understanding everything that, your job, and seeing where you live and understanding the rural climate. It's almost like, because obviously he lives in the same region as you, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it was that. And then during that time, when I was in that sort of spiral of depression, one of my grandfathers passed away. So I then essentially lost a best friend that had taught me everything from shooting my first rabbit as a small child to, my first muntjac and roe deer, and, stood with me shooting my first pheasant. So that took a toll on me again, which sent me, further into the hole as such. So that's sort of where I was there. I then was out one day doing crop protection, so shooting pigeons in the UK. So sat there one day and I decided that something needed to happen. Young men like myself in my early 20s couldn't sit and wallow away in our self-pity. So I decided to record a video from my hunting stand, basically, and sat and opened my heart out a bit like I am now and talked to the camera, just me and my camera, and said, this needs to stop. We need to talk about it. We can't bottle it up. We can't hide away. So let's be honest with everyone and say, I'm going through this, and this might be why I'm acting the way I am. And I felt a lot better for recording it. And I put it on social media thinking friends and family would see it. And it escalated a lot further, and ended up, going not viral, but along the way to it. So I ended up with messages from people I've never met before telling me their circumstances and how seeing my video had helped them to talk and discuss and open up, go to their GP, seek help. So that really, it helped me, and I'm very, very glad that it helped other people to seek the help that they needed.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how you just have no idea the kind of influence that you can have, especially in today's world, right? That's the people moan and groan about social media and its addictive tendencies and all the bad things that come from social media. But there's also absolutely amazing, incredible things that come from social media. And the people that you can touch are, it's unheard of in society writ large for time memorial. The way that we can interact today as a society globally.
Yes.
Like your story probably touched somebody in New Zealand. You never know.
No, and it really did. It went all over, and people opened up and talked about things, and still do. So it's been a journey, and it's been very
Are you still
interesting along the
talking
way.
about it, Ryan, or are you, like, are you done now? Are you like, hey, I'm good to go, or
So I manage it. I do still have low days. I no longer take my antidepressants. I stopped taking those with my doctor's agreement. So moved away from those. And I think basically from that day when I made that video, I decided, right, let's pull yourself out of this and let's do something about it. So now especially working for Basque now, I had the opportunity to put a piece into our magazine, Shooting and Conservation, which meant that I could write an article and tell my story like I am now about what's going on, and this has happened with me, and that people shouldn't be afraid about going to their doctor and talking about their mental health. They shouldn't be afraid about the police giving them a call, as long as you're genuine with them and saying the right things, that you do need your guns to be able to continue your recreational activity where you feel safe and that you are safe with it. Then make sure that you carry on.
when did that video post?
I posted that video several years ago on my social media, so I can probably find it.
And you think you're still getting people talking about it? Are you still talking about it on your social media? Are you still talking about mental health on your social media?
Occasionally, completely unprovoked by me, it does the rounds again and gets reshared. And people come to me saying, "Is this you? But you look a lot younger." Yes. So, but no, it was a great opportunity to write or record a video, and like I say, I thought it would just go to me, my parents, and my friends,
And you did it for what reason? Just to get things off your chest?
Yeah, I did it for me. I think I did it to put everything out in front of myself as to what I'm going through, what's going on, and how I can help.
Make it public, really, like this. Like,
Yes.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
letting everyone know that one who cares.
Yes.
Here it is.
Yeah. So that's what I did. Don't know when I posted that, but it was a long time ago.
It's okay. It's okay. Probably 21, 22, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that. It was just pre-COVID or early COVID when it happened. Okay. So, it was that, and then from then I moved away from the shooting industry for a while. Decided to take a break and went into construction. So became a carpenter for a couple of years, and just tried to do something else for a little while and see if that would help me at all. But I found myself back in the shooting industry now.
Missing it too much.
Oh, completely. Yeah. It was too much to be away. So now I look out there when they're working on roofs in the snow, and I'm glad I'm not out there.
100%.
Yeah. So no, I really enjoy what I do now, and I'm very lucky to be in the position I am. And I feel like I now have an opportunity to tell this story much wider than what I did before, just with social media.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously working for Basque, you get to interact with a bunch of people, and those lead to different stories and different people that you're interacting with. And this podcast hopefully is going to, well, not hopefully, it will reach people that hear your story and go, man, I've got the same story, just like the reactions you got to that original video.
Yeah. So, and then my S&C article. So I put that into our magazine at work. That goes out to 150 50,000 individuals in the UK. So that was again another opportunity for that to go around and people read it. Emails coming to me off the back of it with people's own stories that I can't share, but it was their opportunity to vent with me and to, I think, again, lay it out on a page for themselves as to what they're doing and for me to offer some advice as to how they move on next. A lot of people.
It's a crazy position to be in, huh? In terms of like the roles have reversed, like, oh, you're the mentor now, you're the psychologist now, you're the you're that person.
I think that the hardest thing is asking for help at the start. And once you've asked for help, everything becomes so much easier. But it's having
do you think there's still a massive stigma around that today?
There definitely is. In men's mental health, there completely is still that stigma. And we are trying our hardest where we can to try and change that in all sorts of different ways. So at Basque, we work with another company called the GWT, the Gamekeepers Welfare Trust. So we work closely with Helen there, and we try and bring her along to a lot of our shows and give people an MOT on the day, so blood pressure and a bit of a chat just about how you're doing and what we can do. So yeah, we're trying to fight for it for people.
Why do you think the stigma is still around today, Ryan?
I think it's always been that we're men and we don't show our emotions, and it's time that we started to discuss them more. We need to get it out in the open and make it more public and not be afraid to talk about what we're doing behind closed doors and what's going on in our heads.
I agree, man. I agree. I've had not a story like yours, but I've similarly had trauma in my early teenage life that I at that point just completely bottled up and completely forgot about, and living this world of blood origins now, I've actually got to walk in the footsteps that I did when I was that young teenage boy. And we actually stayed in a campsite that had traumatic issues for me. And the lady who ran the campsite was still there 25 years later, 30 years later. And luckily I have a great team. And I literally I told them, I said, look, guys, I don't know. You don't know. All three of them knew me very well. One of them didn't know me from a bar of soap. And I just said, I'm about to just let everything out. And you're going to have to listen. Because I just need to talk. And I need to get this all off my chest right now. And it was almost like a cathartic experience. Like it was almost like I had to just tell everybody. I think it was just a different scenario to yours, but all these things that were going through my brain in terms of thinking and this is what I thought it was, and then getting almost affirmation from these guys that was you are right to think the way that you think. Don't think that it's anything but horrendous what happened. So yeah, it's I totally feel you. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I'll be the first to say that I haven't, I think once that experience happened, I felt like I dealt with or most of the demons that were inside me. My wife still says, I think you should go see someone, and I haven't. I probably will. But, again, just talking it out loud to someone that didn't happen to be a psychologist, it happened to be 4 people that worked with me very closely. Was an incredible cathartic relaying of stuff that was just incredible from my perspective. So
opening up the first time is the hardest and the strongest thing that you will do. But once you open up that first time, it will get easier and you will be able to share that story with specialists and doctors and and they will be able to help rebuild you and get you back where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. Ryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you opening your story. And I know that obviously there's a lot of people listening to this that probably, again, like me, have similar stories in their backgrounds. And as you said, don't hesitate to ask for help. Don't hesitate to reach out to anybody that you feel like you can talk to them, right?
Completely. And again, always lend that ear to somebody else as well. So if you've got friends, again, that you can lend an ear to, and just ask, are you okay? And they'll just say, yes, I am. And say, no, really, are you okay? Because that might just be that moment that gives them the confidence to say, actually, no, I'm not. And this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we just need to look out for each other at the same time.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.